This is one recently operated interesting case which presented to us along with trauma, and the findings were that there was no crystalline lens, so presuming that there must have been the crystalline lens dislocated into vitreous cavity, and details were not visible because there was also associated retinal detachment and vitreous hemorrhage, which was detachment was detected on a B scan. And this is the anterior segment photograph, which we can see shows a large dilated pupil along with aphakia. During vitrectomy, we were unable to find any crystalline lens in the vitreous cavity. However, during PFCL introduction, I could see that there was a round swelling like this, which you can see here, and in just a little while we'll see it under magnification also. And I presume that this must be the crystalline lens which has migrated into the subretinal space. And as a result, I was testing this out by teasing it, seeing that how does it move. Although this was not a single body, but still, because it looked round and a pebble shaped structure, so I presumed that this must be the crystalline lens. However, this was a surprise. And as we can now see, there is a PFCL bubble overlying the posterior pole of the retina, which has right now made the retina flat, which otherwise was detached. And on touching this particular round object, it moved just like any solid object would, which would slide and glide in this subretinal space. So I decided that this must be a crystalline lens, and I could also see that there was an associated retinal break just temporal to it. So once I tried to make that opening little larger by excising surrounding retina, and there was a surprise. And the surprise was that this was not a crystalline lens, but rather this was some amount of PFCL which had trickled into the subretinal space through this retinal opening. And once we could pull the retina apart, I could see that there was a bubble of PFCL there. And the surgery was continued in the sense that we evacuated this PFCL bubble using active aspiration, as we'll see just now. And once this PFCL bubble was extracted out, the retina immediately fell back and was attached. So the mystery remained that where was the crystalline lens? And in spite of all possible efforts, we couldn't find it, and there was also no trace of any rupture of the globe which could explain expulsion of the lens while the eye sustained this trauma. However, in any given situation, when you have a situation like this, that there's a detached retina and subretinal PFCL, we simply follow this protocol that we extract out this PFCL and then we close this retinectomy using laser, and a long-term tamponade is given. So the surgery was continued in the same direction, and after draining out all the PFCL and ensuring that the retina is settled there, we switch to retinal laser. The machine which we are using is Apasami robot, which has an inbuilt laser system which makes it very convenient to deliver laser to any retinal tissue when we desire to do so, and there is no need to change the foot switch or to change any other machine positioning. Doing laser under PFCL is little easier when compared to doing laser in air because the reflexes are less. It is important to cover all the open breaks, otherwise once the tamponade is gone, which can either be gas or it can be silicone oil, the retina will redetach. So ensuring every possible portion of the retinal break is well lasered, and not only that, there should be some extra layers or extra lines of laser so that they reinforce each other in preventing occurrence of retinal detachment. The viewing system which we are using is ReSight from Carl Zeiss. In the meanwhile, at times we need this cornea to be hydrated so that the view is not compromised, and then switching on to fluid air exchange, where we will be extracting out the fluid in the vitreous cavity, which includes PFCL and also BSS. So now this cavity is completely filled with air, and because there is no subretinal fluid, so retina is also flat. And every possible step to ensure this settlement has been taken by also delivering proper laser to the retinal brake. It is important to ensure that the whole cavity is dry so that there is no compromise in the silicone oil filling. So the last portion of the fluid is drained at the disc, and then also ensuring, because this patient is aphakic, there is no capsule, so it's important and mandatory to do an inferior iodectomy. This will ensure that there is no interruption in the circulation of aqueous humor from the posterior chamber into the anterior chamber, because usually the pupil will get blocked by the silicone oil bubble. At times you can have a situation where the iris is sticking to the cornea and this doesn't get relieved easily in spite of injecting air bubble, and in this moment it is possible to maintain and ensure that the anterior chamber is formed by putting in some viscoelastic at the space between the iris and the cornea. Although this may sound that this may cause some post-op rise in IOP, but believe me, it is important. Otherwise, if you don't make this anterior chamber right now, it will inevitably lead to severe secondary glaucoma, because the access to the angle is blocked by the adherent iris. So you inject some viscoelastic in between the iris and the cornea so that this space is formed, and then the viscoelastic can be easily drained out by the aqueous system and the aqueous drainage system. So this will be flushed out later on. So right now we have air in the vitreous cavity, and we have some viscoelastic gel in the anterior chamber along with the inferior iodectomy. Proceeding on to injecting silicone oil in the cavity, and this will fill up the space and provide a long-term tamponade for maintaining this settlement of retina. This is the day 1 post-op picture, which shows a round pupil, an inferior iodectomy, and a retina which was settled, although the view was not very clear because of some haze. Thank you.